like a gift. I get to open you up every day.
Hey everyone, it's Andy Ellis, and welcome to another episode of the Melodic Noise Insider Podcast. Today's guest is singer-songwriter Brynne Andre, who just released her first album in over a decade called Honeymoon. We had a great talk about how she's approaching this new chapter, her creative process, and more. It was tons of fun, and I could have talked to her for hours. So without further ado, here's our interview. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Melodic Noise Insider Podcast, the very talented Brynne Andre. How's it going, Brynne?
Great, I'm happy to be here. We're both getting caffeinated. I think things are going to go well.
I hope so. I'm hoping I don't just like tip over mid-interview. That'd be a really bad look via audio. So like one thing I kind of want to start out with was this is kind of this album Honeymoon, which I've enjoyed a lot. I've listened to a few times. Is that it is your return from a hiatus of music in a sense. You've lived life, you've done a lot of things, and now you're back doing this. Like when you're entering this new chapter, because the music landscape has changed in the industry, just in general, like what is how you're approaching your music career or journey with this new chapter?
Definitely. So I am approaching it differently this time around. So the last full release I did was in 2011. So things have changed, I've changed. And the difference is I'm a lot more confident and I have a lot more awareness of how marketing works. I'm actually a marketer, that's my career. But the act of marketing your own music as an artist it's very harrowing. I think a lot of artists would say that because as an artist, you're kind of sensitive and you're putting something so personal into the world. And so you create the work, but then actually getting it out there, that does not come naturally to me. The marketing piece does not come naturally to me. And so with my last record, I feel like I didn't necessarily market it the way that I should have or could have. And now I'm older, I'm more confident. I have a lot more awareness of how to market, and I'm as much work as I put into creating this record, my vow for myself is that I'm going to be putting that much work into getting it out there into the world, even though it feels deeply uncomfortable. Although this is nice. I love listening to podcasts, so it's great to be on a podcast. So that's a great change. If this is the way that I promote my record, like I think I can do it.
So are you then like kind of treating it this time, while yes, it is a passion, it is an art form, are you approaching it more in terms of like a side business then, in a sense, in terms of how you're approaching that?
Definitely. I'm pretty entrepreneurial. I'm pretty confident in that side of things, in the business side of things. And so because of that, my goal is to really apply that confidence and awareness to my music, which I had never done before. It's like anytime I would lose every sort of ounce of knowledge and confidence I had when it came to my music. I think because it's music, it's so personal, it's so sensitive. I didn't apply those learnings. So this time around, I'm trying to think of like, okay, I have resources, I have experience, I understand the world of digital marketing. So what would I do if I was a record label? What would I do if this was a product I was trying to promote for somebody? And it's not perfect, but it helps me so much in getting the music out there. At this time around, I have a team that's helping me more. I've been creating assets, I've been creating videos, and before I just didn't have the confidence to create a music video, or I didn't have the confidence to say, hey, yeah, I could hire somebody to help me get this out there. So it's different, and I think thinking of your music from a business sense can take the sting out of it if you're a little too sensitive as a musician, which makes good music, but it can also prevent you from fully promoting yourself.
Was there when you were looking at it from a more business side, just more in terms of I would say just help more be successful this time around, were there any other artists you looked at, or like maybe just even artists within the Minnesota community that like you looked at in terms of like, okay, whether you talked with them or to kind of get an idea of if there is anything specific to the music promotion part that may not have applied to maybe other parts of marketing in a sense. Does that make sense?
In terms of like looking at other artists, I'm always looking at other artists for inspiration, but you're also kind of like trying to be like, wait, who's out there who's doing really cool things? And it can be inspiring, but it can also be stressful or make you feel less than. But there are so many incredible local artists that I have been inspired by and that have developed such a strong following. And what I learned from that is a lot of those groups, like Cloud Cult comes to mind. They're one of my favorite. And to me, what it seems like they do is they've been so focused on their style. They've been so focused on the way that they're doing things and not giving up. They just keep forging ahead and they just keep building their fan base. And to me, they are famous beyond Minneapolis and Minnesota, but to me, they're this really good example of like a Minnesota famous band. And so it helped me to hone my focus around like, what are my goals? I don't need to be on the pop charts. I don't need to be touring the world. Sure, I won't turn that down, but my focus is really to have a true fan base in Minnesota, people that when I have a show, they're going to come out and see me and they're going to care and they're going to listen and they will know the words to my previous songs and they get excited for new releases. And so I think like Cloud Cult is an example. What are some other local Minnesota? I mean, I know Carrie Noble is a local artist that plays piano. I always looked to her because she cultivated such a strong following in Minnesota and really was known as a Minnesota-based artist. So it really helped me to just narrow my focus because before I didn't have a focus. I just was like, I want to do music. And I think when you don't have a clear goal, it can really keep you just like whipping in the wind. So I'm doing that a lot less now.
So when did you know that you were ready or it was time for you to come back to making music?
I knew that I wanted to make another record and I knew that I wanted to do it with Matt Patrick and because I had worked with him previously and I was treating it, I knew I have expensive taste in music and I want to pay the people that I work with what they deserve. And so for radio ready, incredible high caliber music, I knew what that would cost me. And so I had been saving for a year and a half and I had the money. And that's when I was like, wait, why are you not calling Matt? You have the money, you can do this record. And that's when I knew I was ready because I had the money but I was kind of scared. And I finally just pulled the trigger because I was like, you're not getting any, I mean, I'll be 40 in about a year. And I think when you come to the end of a decade, you also really think of your life in a sort of a looking back way. And the idea of not having music and another body of work under my belt as the new decade starts, I didn't like that very much. So I had the money. I had definitely material. I mean, my whole life has completely changed. So the material was so good. The music was so good that I had been writing. And so I finally just sent him the email and I said, let's do this. And so we recorded Honeymoon.
So when it comes with Matt Patrick, I mean, what is it that makes you two work so well together, but also like him kind of, because with producers, you are in a sense and trusting them with helping you, find the exact way you want to create this music that's, very personal songs on this record. And so what was, can you kind of talk about your relationship with him and like what just makes you think it works so well?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I want to say, if anybody's listening, before I was listening before I knew more about music and the process of music, I think when I heard the word production, I didn't really know what that meant. So, and that's a thing I pride myself on now is I really became much more adept at understanding music, not just being a songwriter, but also understanding production, being able to produce. And so production is basically the aspect of I could go in with a song that I'd written on piano and with my vocals, and I could come out with a song that sounds like Meghan Trainor, or I could come out with a song that sounds like T-Pain. Clearly, I'm a millennial, like pulling out those references, but a producer colors your music so definitively and so strongly that if you don't pick the right producer, and also you don't have the right relationship with your producer, it completely changes the way that the music manifests. And I felt like I had been disappointed in the past by that experience, because I was not strong enough to say, no, that's not the direction, or that's sort of the direction, but can we have it be, the song sound a little bit more like this or that? So with the thing about Matt is he's incredibly adaptable and respectful. And so he really listens to you. And when I met him in my mid-20s, I didn't have a lot of skill, but he still was able to get me the music that I wanted to get. He got me in the direction that I wanted to. And then when we connected again, probably 8-9 years later, I had so much more skill. I was bringing him demos where a lot of the music was already written, from the drum beat to the synth, because I had learned music production. So, and he wasn't territorial at all. He wasn't like, no, that's my realm. Like, I do the drum beats and I do the synth. He was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. You've come so far. This is really cool for me, because now I have more of a palette to work with. I have more information about the sound that you are going for. And so I think he's just a really kind, respectful, open-minded person. But he is so skilled that because I would bring him songs where I'm like, I love this pop song. It's got a little bit of trap beat in it, but it's also got a little bit of this ethereal vocal. He's like, yep, I can do that. So not only is he adaptable, but he has the skill to, if he hears a song, he can help me get it to the place where it needs to be. So it's been a journey for me to develop my own musical voice and production voice, but I'm really lucky that I met Matt and he is the partner to work with, because I'm still in that phase where I'm like, I want this sound, or I'm exploring this sound, or do I want to be this kind of an artist? And it might be all of the above.
So now, because I do think that when you are able to, sometimes when you're working with a producer and you're able, in a sense, to talk to them about your song in their language, in a sense, it can help the collaboration process a lot. So just kind of going back a little bit to when you had worked with them previously, when you didn't have that experience, I mean, was it ever a challenge to kind of get across what you were trying to say when you were talking with him, or was it still just that easy?
With Matt, it's always been by far the easiest in terms of working with a producer. But yes, it can be challenging, because I was intimidated by kind of all things music, which is strange because I was a singer-songwriter, but I had a lot of feeling of, I would go into the studio and be like, I don't know what any of this equipment is. All I know is my song. All I know is how to sing. But I felt so intimidated. And so I tended to be like, oh, sure. Oh, I like that. Yeah, that sounds good. Because what was I going to say if I didn't like it? I did not even have the lexicon to say, no, I actually don't want it to be a kick drum. I think it should be a hi-hat. I mean, now I have the ability to say that, but back then I had no idea, and I just felt like, okay, they know best. And not necessarily in the case of Matt, but I'd done previous works where, and I'm proud of all the music that I've created, and I think all the producers I've worked with have been very talented. But like I said, if you don't have the confidence or the ability to say, this is the sound that I'm going for, and this is the instrument maybe that it should be, or this is the way it should manifest, you end up with a song that maybe sounds more like the producer than it sounds like you. And so it's definitely challenging. And so I worked really hard to get over my own intimidation, and I've always been the type where if I feel intimidated by something, or if I don't know something, I move toward it and I learn more about it. And so the last 10 years I've learned music production so that my intimidation fades. And so now music is so much more fun, and the creation of music is more fun too.
And so, because you do mention the different sounds to and I listened a little bit to your last record of, it was from 2011, and then this one too. And the one thing I do notice is that that last record was very kind of piano driven. It was a lot of drums. Like, I would say more like, just, I would say maybe more traditional instruments in a sense. And then this one is definitely more there's definitely more atmospheric pop feel to it as well. And could you kind of talk about like going that route? I mean, is that just kind of like the music that's just kind of inspiring you today?
Yeah, definitely. Because so my last record, Brynne Andre, I did in Nashville, and all so yes, it was all live instruments. There was a lot more of my own piano in it, which that's a sound, and I love that sound. I kind of love that traditional pop rock sound. And but this time around, as I was creating music, and now I have the ability to create more of the sounds, I found myself drawn more to the atmospheric, like 80s, 90s synths, electronic beats, basically the music that I love currently. Like, I love indie pop, I love EDM, I love music that is inspired by those elements, more of the synthetic elements, but also with really, really, really grounded in really great songwriting and really great vocals. So the kind of the hybrid of great, beautiful music and beautiful songs with the synthetic sounds. And so basically it was like, as I learned production, I was able to actually, my true style finally got to emerge because I was able to create my own demos, as opposed to where before I would write a song, it would be piano and vocals. That's it. That's all the instrumentation that I would have. Now, with my new skill set that I've developed, I could write a song on piano, and then I could be like, what should this sound like? Oh, I'm going to go grab a beat. Okay, this beat is kind of a little bit hip hop, but I like it. Okay, I guess that might be my style. Or this beat is a little bit kind of that like late 80s sound. I guess that's my style. And so it was such a nice experience of being like, I actually had an ex-boyfriend once tell me, he's like, I don't think you've actually found your style yet in terms of music. And it like made me so mad, but he was so right. And now I can finally say, okay, I actually have my style because I have the tools to create it. And then Matt just took it to a new level. He took everything that I was creating and he heard it, and then he just took it to like, okay, we're gonna make this sound so good and it's radio ready.
Hearing that, then also kind of thinking about, because I have an idea of how, if you're going to record in a studio in Nashville, like a lot of times there is a set way they do it. So did that at all, like if you can think back then, were there any songs you were writing where maybe you had an idea that maybe someone was like, actually that's not how I do it here, or was it still pretty like, we're gonna create what you want type thing?
I don't know that I ever had overt pushback like that. But I do know I won't name them, but there are several songs on that record that I don't really like the way they turned out. And that is no fault of theirs. It's just that I didn't know how to say, this isn't what I'm hearing. This isn't the way that I wrote it or feel like it should live in the world, but I didn't know how to say it. So there's just, and now, but I've thought about this where now I can redo them because I can redo the beat. I can redo, and so I might remix my own. And I probably won't say which songs those are because everybody gets to have their own relationship with the songs, and I can tell from the music analytics actually that the songs that I don't really love the way that they turned out, like it does not, they actually, some of them are some of the most listened to or the most Shazammed songs. So isn't that funny? Where like, well, it might not have been the way that I wanted it, but that like, it's also, music is not always your own, right? It's not all about me. It's about the experience of the listener. So that's pretty funny too.
So I mean, like when you were, in the time from that record to this one now, the way you've been talking, it kind of feels that like you have really always been still writing songs. It's just haven't had time to really, put them out there. Like, what's it like? I mean, is in this during this hiatus or whatever, has this has songwriting always been your mode of personal expression, or did you kind of have to was there a point where you kind of had to like more actively tap into that part of you again?
It's a very good point, and what I will say is, anytime I would go home to my hometown, in my hometown, I'm very much known for music. I was always on stage in high school, playing songs. Everybody knew me as a songwriter, and so when I go home for Christmas, people always say, "Are you still doing music?" And that question, I get that a lot, and I'm always like, it kind of like it frustrates me a bit because I'm like, no, literally every day. I'm almost playing piano or writing or something every day. Like music is part of me, but the act of recording and playing publicly and releasing music is is a part of it that maybe I'm not always doing consistently. But in a way, it is good that people ask that because it means that it matters. It matters to the people that saw me growing up, and it does matter to me. And for me, the full expression of my music journey is, I think I would like it actually better maybe if I could just get enough of a charge from just playing music, singing to myself. But there's a part of me that it's not fully complete unless I have it recorded and I'm playing it on stage. That, I mean, if you think about it, like it's kind of a nightmare of a hobby. It's expensive. It takes a lot out of you. It's like super time consuming. And then every time, like the 30 seconds before I perform, I'm like, why do I do this? Like, this is a horrible idea. I have to get out of here. Why am I doing this? I'm so scared. And then within 10 seconds of performing, I'm like, oh, okay, this is the best thing I've ever done. I'm meant to be here. So it's the most, it's such a crazy passion and a hobby. So what I'm trying to say is that music commands me. Like if I'm not doing it, music is like, hey, are you going to leave music behind? Are you going to leave music behind? It's haunting me at all times. I'm always writing. I'm always playing. And so now I'm just like answering the full call of like, okay, we're doing music. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to be real about it. We're going to record the music. We're going to perform, and we're going to be public about it.
So I mean, were there the times when like you'd be like, walking down the hall and it's kind of like, okay, piano, please stop looking at me?
Yes. I mean, in this room, I probably have 8 keyboards, and it's so expensive, but it gives me the most joy. I mean, the most joy comes when I'm sitting at my piano. There's nothing that compares to a real piano. The feeling of it, and just playing, not sure what's going to come out, not sure if I'm singing, or sometimes I'm just playing, and it's almost a spiritual experience. It's a way for me to process emotions. And so I was joking before, but I feel so lucky that I have the passion, and I've come to realize that not everybody has that in their life. And so I do feel really fortunate that I do have the piano that demands my attention at all times. Now I have kids that demand my attention, and I have a piano that demands my attention.
So what you're saying is you have a lot of free time, right?
Yeah, I know. It's like, that's the other thing is like, wow, of all hobbies, this has to be the hobby. I have twin toddlers, but somehow I'm going to also be a recording artist. But I'm really big on the fact that parents are human beings too. So I'm going to do my best to be a human being with a life beyond children. So, and here we are.
And yeah, and like, so I kind of want to get more into to the record Honeymoon. Could you? And so I actually kind of start with the title song. Like, you open the record with it, but like it seems like a very like, it's a and you do this with a couple of songs on the record too, where it's just like you kind of take your own kind of meaning from a word that's been in the language for a while. But like, can you kind of talk about like, how did this idea come about? Even though it seems very simple, like it's just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then like just naming it on your record and also opening the record with it.
Thank you. That is such a high compliment because I'm obsessed with words. I always have been. I was a spelling bee nerd, and so part of that experience is that you learn how to spell words, but you also learn where did the word come from? What was the origin of the word? What pieces of the word? So honey and moon. And so I do that with words all the time. And that is such a great songwriting device. And so I'm always taking a word or a theme and trying to maybe be clever with it or go deeper with it. And I think it drives people in my life nuts because I talk a lot and I'm like, wait, can we analyze this for 4 hours?
You're like, no, we cannot.
And can we just talk? Yeah, can we just talk about this topic for 4 hours? And so the idea of Honeymoon, well, first of all, it's one of the most light songs that I've ever written. And that was a big thing I wanted to do, which is write music that has levity, that is a representation of joy and happiness, which is actually a tall order because it can end up super cheesy. And so what I wanted to do was challenge myself to write music for this phase of my life, which is very light. And actually, no, it's not. Yeah, right. But there are pieces of it that are very light. And I wanted to find a way to musically represent that. And so that is how the song started. And it's also the start to the record in terms of like, this chapter of my life, you could say, is quote unquote the honeymoon. You know, I married my dream guy. I had a family. In all, you know, this is sort of where the movie ends a lot of the times. But okay, so this is the honeymoon, but then what happens after the honeymoon? What happens after that? And there's actually a lot more to the story, and that's what I absolutely love. So the song itself, I wanted it to sound like a honeymoon for your ears. It's kind of got like a little bit of an island beat or an island sound, and that I actually created. But then the message itself is like prepping you for, okay, we've hit the honeymoon, but I think there's a lot more to be told here. And then it's the first song, and then the rest of the record kind of unfolds, and you're like, okay, there's some additional chapters past this point of life where you think you've gotten everything you want.
Yeah, and the more I listen to the record, the one thing I did like is that like it is a very, you know, I like records where the more I listen to the songs, it's like you have a lot of songs they almost kind of like they're opposite sides in a sense. And so like one that I actually because at some point I do actually want to talk about this about you know the sequencing of the record, but like you know the kind of I would say maybe opposite of honeymoon is the closing song, Even Love.
We can hide our conflicts in Amazon boxes, do all the dishes in our middle class kitchen, but even love needs love sometimes. Yeah, even love needs love sometimes.
And what I like about that is I actually wrote this is very professional, and so it says it's even love needs love sometimes. It's something like that, and I just like, to me that sounds like it's they're two in a sense that they could be kind of parallel songs because one is pretty happy, pretty light, the other kind of like digs into the whole kind of like that love or that like, you know, it takes work. So I mean, like, could you kind of talk about writing Even Love and then also like having Honeymoon open and that song close the record?
I love that analysis that you have, and I really wanted it to come through that way, which is it starts with honeymoon, which is like, I'm in love, life is perfect, it's joyful, and that's all true. That is all true. But also this stage of life and life in general, what's confusing as a human is that sometimes you have everything you want and you have all of the things that all things in life have lined up perfectly. There's nothing more you could really want, but it's still so difficult. And you are still a human being struggling. You know, there's a line in Even Love where it's like, you know, the baby's crying and I'm too tired to say nice things today. And it's like, yeah, I wanted this baby. Well, two babies. I maybe didn't want two at one time, but yes, I did actually. But you're like, wait, how can your brain even handle such joy, but also like such difficulty and just reality at the same time. And so it's complex. And I like that I left the record, the Even Love song is really I think it's kind of the emotional center of what I'm trying to say here, which is life is complex, and those two things can be true. You can have everything you want, but you can also have a really hard time. You can have absolutely, and young people, parents of young children really know that feeling of like, whoa, this is supposed to be the best experience of my life, and it is, but also like this is that you are really in the night of your life. And so I really like exploring kind of all angles of those things with music, just for myself. Like, and Even Love was just a song that I sat down at the piano and just, it was sort of like a life raft. I just kept writing it and writing it and writing it and writing it. And finally it solidified. And I was like, yeah, even love needs love sometimes. Sometimes even when you have a really good relationship. And my husband comes from a wonderful family. His parents are like this kind of wonderful couple, and they've been married forever, and and so he has this example of a couple that it worked. And so he's just like, yeah, this is cool. Like, we'll be good. And I come from a situation where my parents did not stay together. Things were a lot more difficult. And so my experience is like, oh no, no. You don't just rest. You don't just like sit back and let it be. Like, you gotta, like, even love needs love. And so it's kind of that conversation I have too with, I love that he's so stable and reliable. I wrote a song about that. But my, I think, mission statement is like, we have this gorgeous life, like we have to tend to it. So that's I mean, if there's anything I love, it's talking about my own music, because I spent so much time crafting the message of it, right?
The more I think about the song, it's just like, I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, it also, like, it reminds me little of like a song like that like Taylor Swift would write. It's just so like, because she's so good at it, but it's kind of like this. I could see her write something like this. She probably has too. Like, but another one another one I liked was Celebrity.
There is a place in the Hollywood Hills collecting dust, 'cause I never showed up. Why get your hands dirty in the gold rush when you find someone certified platinum?
And there's the opening lyric. There's a place in the Hollywood Hills collecting dust because I never showed up. And what I like about that is listening to the rest of the song. It's almost like your life was on one path, but you decided, in a sense, to make your own fate. And so could you talk about that song? But also, what I also liked was that it's also using the phrase celebrity or term celebrity that can have sometimes negative connotations, especially if who you're talking to. But maybe, I mean, especially with the current writer strike and actor strike right now, like I just could talk about like that song, just like, was there ever a time where you were trying to give it a different title?
No, celebrity. So I am, I love words, and I also love pop culture. So I know like celebrities' kids' names. I mean, I will be deadly at trivia in like 10 years because I know so much about celebrity culture. So there was just no other name for the song. But yes, the song itself is definitely a song that is about thank you for my life. I'm so happy. I feel like a celebrity in my own life. But there is also an underlying theme of, for a long time, so in high school, it was like music. Music was the thing. I left and went to Minneapolis. I really sort of thought I was going to be like the jewel that gets discovered living in a van or something like that, playing at a coffee shop. But then it just wasn't that way. And so there's a part of me that has always thought, did I miss my turn on the crossroads? Did I, is there a world in which I should have like tried harder, or I could have ended up being like a Jewel or an Alanis or That definitely dates me, but those are my early influences. But celebrity is a way of me saying like, sure, maybe there's a place in the Hollywood Hills where I could have been. You know, maybe there's a starlet that I could have become, a famous pop star that I could have become. But I get to be in my own Hollywood. I get to feel like a celebrity in my own life. I have this beautiful life, and what would I have missed had I gone that direction? And that's true. I mean, I think for a long time I thought, did I betray my dream? Did I betray my dream? I'm here. I'm living this sort of like suburban, very prescribed life, but I really, really love it. There's so much more joy, and it's so much more layered than I think I thought it would be. And so it's me kind of going against that voice. It's like, wait, did I betray my dream? Did I give up my dream? And the ultimate answer is like, no. You get to have your own Hollywood. You get to have your own dream right here.
Another thing I liked about was that, like, you know, when in the lyrics, when they're talking about like how your life is now, it's like it's, you know, and I think sometimes it's something you're not really able to really realize until you get older. Is the whole fact of like, you know, you can actually, you know, the things that people kind of, I would say, chase that kind of celebrity or like famous status for, is like, you know, you can, it's actually still achievable, but like but the older you get, like it might come in another way, but it's gonna be way more meaningful when it's you know, not based on like how many records you sold or stuff like that. So it's just like, I liked how it's just kind of like, well, like you can still have like the things that maybe you kind of chase that kind of fame thing for, but you'll just have it in a way that might make you more sane, you know.
So true. And the other thing, just overall, that celebrity touches on, and that I wanted to kind of just touch on in this entire record, which is, so you mentioned Taylor Swift, like, oh my gosh, love Taylor. Huge Taylor Swift fan. Went to her show, like, all I do is wear my Taylor Swift sweatshirt. It's like my emotional support sweatshirt. But there's a thing that happens when these pop stars and these pop singer-songwriters get famous, is they don't necessarily live a life that's relatable to everybody. They're living a life where they have problems that are like, I'm sorry you have too much money, or I'm sorry you have too much fame. Those are problems, but those are not my problems. So I think I love pop music, but I would love to have more pop music that's relatable to me, which is like, here's a pop song about how my toddler is driving me crazy, or here's a pop song about how I love my husband, but like we've been married for a really long time, and so like sometimes I don't love my husband, you know. And it's like, can we have pop music that sounds like really good pop music, but also is about the truth of life? And I think Taylor does an amazing job of making things that are extremely resonant, but she does not live a suburban life. She just does not, you know. And so that's my thing too, is I think we have a pretty youth obsessed music industry, and I think it's also my own revolution of I want to put my stake in the ground, even though it's hard, of like, yeah, I'm a woman who's almost 40, but I still have things to say, and I can still sing pop songs, you know. And maybe my songs are going to be more resonant to a lot of people because, listen, I've got the kids and I've got the marriage, and it's like, it's uniquely hard and uniquely good at the same time.
And not for nannies.
We do have daycare, and like, my goodness, angels. But yes, you're right.
So one song that honestly, it just made me smile the more I listened to it, was "Good Time," and I think it's probably because of, I think I'm kind of at the stage now too, where it's like I still want to go to shows because like I just like live music, but also I need to get out of the house too, but I will look at times for a show and be like, oh yeah, the main set starts at 10 p.m. must be like, that's okay. If I have to, I guess I can, but like, man, like, it's that.
A shot. Age is just a number, but it's easy to say that when you're younger. I'm too old for this pop music, but I'm really not ready to die. So let's hold
just one of those for a small, because like the production is a very like very 80s pop sound, which I can like see you like top down with your friends just rolling in the town, but also being like, okay, but we gotta be back by like 10 p.m. because I gotta go to sleep. Like, could you? I mean, this. What was it like writing the song? Because it just seems like it was like fun, but it was also it's again honest too.
Oh yeah, I wrote it in like 20 minutes. My kids were my kids were with a babysitter, and so I had like a time frame. And luckily it was last summer. I was by a pool, and I had found these 80s samples, and they just sounded like fun, and they also sounded like a life that I was very far from. I was like, oh, I remember when I used to go out at 9 p.m. and go on rooftops and take shots, and it just all sort of came together in a clever way, but in a way that like it's a fun pop song. But almost all of the songs had been written for the record, and I did not have like a true pop song, like really really upbeat, like almost like you could dance to it. And I love that kind of music, and I was like, you know what, I think we need to squeeze this one in. And I brought it in, and Matt was just like, whoa, look at you, producer, because I had brought it in the song that I brought in was almost fully like finished, like the sound of it. And so I'm really proud of that. Like the production, a lot of what you're hearing, I put that together. So I guess there's just like an 80s pop star inside of me. So I didn't know that. But yeah, for me, my journey has been all about, I was so serious in my 20s, and life, there was things in my family and things in my life that were making me feel really serious. But also I think in your 20s you're kind of tortured, and like you have all this freedom, you have all this like energy, but it's wasted on you because you're like, oh, I'm so tortured, and like I have to write these really sad songs,
And broke.
which is amazing. yes and broke, totally. And then, but the truth is, like, as you get older, that's when you're earning your good time. You have enough resources, you have enough to be excited about, but then you're like tired. And I know when we go out, my husband and I go out for like a date night, we're like trying to stay out past 9 to make it worth it for our babysitter. We're like, should we get ice cream? Because we're like, I'm so tired. Yeah.
It was I was recently I went to Tipples Brewing for they had their little festival during Art of World, and I was there from like noon to 10, and I'm like, you know what, that's fine, I'm gonna go. It was kind of the start of live music season here, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go to the show tomorrow too. I get home at like 10 p.m. and I wake up and my body's like, yeah, no, you're not. So it's just like, no,
Nope.
you're gonna relax, you're gonna go to a bookstore, but no, you're not, because but it is weird. It's just kind of like, now it's kind of like, it is probably like, well, I want to go, but that's like, and I'm a night owl, but it's still kind of like, I also like my pillow. So
I know, like, what, maybe I can be the person who does this, but can we normalize like a brunch live music scene? Like I'm happy to be the person who leads that in Minneapolis, where it's like Brynne Andre at brunch playing music, and you still get to be in bed by 8. Like we need to make that happen a little bit more.
hey, I would not be I wouldn't complain one bit. I mean, and also like, I do still stay late, but it's just still like, when it's at like, oh yeah, the last set at 10 or 11, it's just like, I can do it, but like, because I'm fine when I'm there. Because I also, there's also parking too, which is usually an issue, because I can't parallel park for the life of me. But like, I'll look at the times, it's kind of like 11 p.m. I'll try. I can't say how functional I'll be in the morning, but we'll see how this ends up. But yeah, another one going to a more serious song is but this is actually, so the song's sad.
Sunsets on happiness. I say hello, handsome darkness. I'm fucking sad. I don't want your help, but the staycation at Hotel Hell.
What stood out to me the most was the first part of your chorus, it's I'm fucking sad, but the use of the word fucking seems very purposeful, and not even really in like a funny way, just more of like a this is the most direct word I can say towards what I'm feeling. But like, could you kind of talk about like, you know, because like there's not a lot of swearing on your record, and like this is, but it's just I just like just the way you use it is just so specific to me. Like, can you talk about that song and just like using that word?
Yeah, so I was always self-conscious, I think, or told that my music is really sad. And definitely in my early music writing, I mean, when you have access to a piano and you're a singer-songwriter, like, and you listen to Tori Amos and Ani DeFranco and like that kind of stuff, you end up writing kind of tortured, sad music. And also music was my way of processing life. And so a lot of my music was sad. But I feel like then people, maybe family members probably would be like, oh, your music is so sad. And then I took that as like a criticism, and I always carried that with me. And so this song, in a way, was then actually got in the phase where I'm like, I'm writing happier stuff or writing stuff that has more levity, and this song in a way even is kind of light. And so it was my way of being like, yeah, putting my stake in the ground and saying I am fucking sad. And what's wrong with that? It's fine. And you know, as a parent now, you learn so much more about parenting. You know, as you become a parent, I'm like, I want my kids. I teach my kids it's okay to be mad. It's okay to be sad, and giving them the access to those emotions and access to claim those emotions. So it's me claiming that emotion in kind of a funny way, and kind of in a very defiant way. And then the song itself is really about. Sometimes it feels really good to be sad. When you're really, really sad, sometimes if you surrender to it, and this song was written on a day where I was really, really sad. We were actually going through a fertility journey. And so there's this like, there's nothing you can do. Like, you're like, well, it's not working. And you just want to be fucking sad. And I was just driving around listening to the saddest music, and I was like, oh, this is so great. In a way, I mean, it was devastating, but I was like, I just want to be as sad as possible, and that's okay. And honestly, it probably made that experience and the feeling go away faster, because you're not trying to resist it. You're not trying to have it be anything other than it is. You are accepting yourself for the sadness. And so yeah, it's another, like, probably a song you listen to and you're like, oh, but the more you listen to it, you're like, yeah, feeling sad is a whole journey in itself.
Well, yeah, and also I think there is a importance to, you know, like I said, like allowing yourself to, like, okay, you're feeling this emotion. It's not a positive emotion, but you need to kind of let this emotion run its course, so then it allows you to move on as well. But like there is but no, yeah, it was just and it's a very like, yeah, it's a powerful song, but yeah, it was just very like that was kind of, okay, that's very like you meant that fuck word, like you meant that. It's just kind of like, but it was like, yeah. And so, you know, another one that I really liked, and what I liked about this, it's a reliable man.
To all the girls ghosted and confused out in the world, here's the message: I have seen the truth. Don't forget this, the nice guy can get it. He keeps the home fires burning, chops wood and he carries water. He wakes up early.
And what I liked most about this was the production of it is a very kind of like, I would say probably synth production, and it fits really well with the first part of the song where you're talking about the bad boy or whatever. But then like it's a really cool parallel to when you start the chorus, and it's kind of like, but so are the nice guys, and just like it's really cool. So could you kind of talk about, like, again, writing that song and pairing that production with what you're really trying to talk about.
Yeah, the more I talk about the record, I realize I'm like every song I'm trying, like there's some kind of brain teaser that I'm adding in there in terms of this the way it sounds is different than what I'm trying to convey. So that's interesting. I'll have to talk with my therapist about why I'm trying to trick people or brain tease people. But so yes, the whole thing was super deliberate. I don't know if you are a Taylor Swift listener, but she had just come out with that song or the record Midnights, and like the whole vibe of the album was dark and kind of like crunchy and a little bit, I don't know, moody, and I loved it. I just loved, and I'm always like listening for, okay, what do I love about that? And so I incorporated some of that, but also what I wanted to achieve is, wouldn't it be interesting if I created a song that sounds like a bad boy, but is actually about the good guy? Because the good guy is so overlooked. The good guy never gets, so the good guys get like really cheesy songs. Like, I love this man, you know, they're like the songs that get played at like the father-daughter dance at a wedding, but the good guys never get a song that's kind of like sexy and like rock or anything like that. So this is my goal of like let's make the good guy be the cool guy. And so that's what it's about. It's about, you know, sure, a bad boy is great, but have you ever had a good guy who like shows up and does what he says he's gonna do and is reliable? Like, you don't know, you haven't seen anything until you get a reliable man. And but also like making it not cheesy, making it cool, making it sound like a pop song of today. So like if you were just to play the instrumental, you'd be like, ooh, this is like it's a cool pop song about like a dangerous man, and you're like, just kidding, it's about a reliable man.
Well, it's also one, and when I'm hearing everybody talk about it now, it's just honestly, I'm also realizing how low the bar is for a nice guy.
Right?
Like, it's just like he shows up, he's truthful. Oh my god.
Right?
So
you're like, whoa.
And so like,
I know,
a song like this, like when you're writing it, because it does almost feel like you're talking to someone as well. I mean, are you writing it for someone? Are you writing it for when your daughters are old enough to start going through these things too? I mean, like, are you in a sense writing it as a letter to someone when you're writing it?
I don't know that I'm writing it to someone. I think maybe a little, because in the bridge, I say, you know, to all the girls ghosted and confused. So yeah, I'm probably writing to all the girls ghosted and confused, probably to me in my 20s, and probably just to the general sense of trying to burst the bubble that that we should want these kind of inconsistent, dangerous, mysterious men. It's like, no, that just leaves you confused and stressed out. So probably, and overall, I think I'm always now thinking about what kind of message do I want to portray for my girls. And oh man, before I had girls, I was like, I think I want a boy. Being a girl is really hard. And then I ended up with twin daughters. So I guess it's like, oh, that's an interesting twist of fate. So now I've really taken the assignment to heart of like, okay, I have little girls. Like, what kind of world and what kind of message do I want to leave for them? And so this, I guess that's part of it.
Yeah, and another one that I really liked was Trailblazing.
High at the map, I was going nowhere. The center line had me paralyzed. I went left, right, and I was lost in the night. I heard no voice, not even mine.
What I liked about that was it's, I mean, the production's very solid. Like the drums, it is like, it almost kind of reminds me a little bit of like Imagine Dragons a little bit. But like, it's this one, it really feels like this is like if there was a song that was kind of solidifying this new path you're on for music. It's this. It's awakening too. It's just like, I mean, is that I mean, is that what you're kind of going through when you're writing a song?
Yes, you officially are number one fan because, or number one listener because you are, you're interpreting and listening to the songs in the way that I hoped that people would hear them. But yes, Trailblazing is absolutely that song of sort of encapsulating where I was at and where I want to be going with music. And it was definitely, it was the first song I wrote for the record. So it's the oldest song, and I wrote it before I had kids. And I just felt like I felt like I was adrift, and I felt like I had lost my voice. And this song helped me feel like I could come back to it, and I could find my new style. I could find the new chapter, or the new message that I was going for. And so absolutely, that's what it is. And it's not the first song on the record, but it was definitely the first one that I wrote. And it's also kind of the first song that I wrote. I've always written really specific songs about my own life, specific autobiographical confessional songs. And this was one of the first songs that I wrote that was more anthemic, and it was bigger. It was still about me, but it was like the ideas were bigger, and it felt like an anthem. And I could never write that kind of music before because it didn't feel real to me. It felt kind of cheesy, I felt like, who am I to be like writing an anthem? Who am I to write anything about life or finding your voice or the big themes of life? But now I'm old enough where I feel like, yeah, I think I have something to say here. I've been through enough, and I can write a really big anthem. And I love big anthems. Like Sia writes the best anthems, right? She's like, I'm unstoppable, and she just owns it. And I did not feel that I could own those kinds of big songs. And now I feel like I can. It feels like real and authentic, and I have the confidence to do it. So, and that's what I wanted with the production too. I was really specific about, I was like, I want it to sound, I'm a big fan of Katie Herzig, and she's got these really big layered productions. And so that's what we were going for. And Matt knocked it out of the park. And Alex Young played drums, and he's an awesome drummer. He's all over the place playing drums for all these cool people, and he just nailed it.
Yeah, he was a big drum player. Just like, I'm like, damn. Okay, this is like, I could just like it definitely stood out too.
Yeah.
And you're kind of talking about how you write these really kind of confessional songs. One thing I'm curious about is, so I'm a writer too, is that when you're writing these songs that are personal, they're confessional, is it, when you're done writing that song, do you feel like, how do you feel afterwards? I mean, is it a release? Is it, hey, I put this down, now I can kind of move on in a sense, or like, how does that work for you?
When I write a song that feels incredibly personal, and I feel like I've landed the plane in the way that I didn't crash the plane, I feel it feels complete, and it feels like a relief. And I think it's because, I don't know if it's because I'm a middle child or what, but I feel like I'm not always like seen or heard, or that's like a core thing that I'm always trying to achieve. And so here I am doing the Tour de France of trying to be seen and heard, which is like literally putting out an entire record of me talking about myself and demanding people see and hear me. But I feel it feels right when I write a song that encapsulates what I want to say, that I feel like people have not heard from me. It feels like a relief. Like, okay, if you did not know this about me, like, I need you to know this about me.
And it's also one where just, you can't mention being middle child. Middle child is kind of like, yeah, I want the attention so bad. I now have a budget for marketing for it. So
yeah, exactly. Like, you will see me. You will see me. Yeah.
Whether you want to or not. And then so now, there is, and I was surprised by it too, there is a cover of a classic country song, Strawberry Wine.
Come back to this place just to remember the taste of strawberry wine. 17, the hot July moon saw everything. My first taste of love, it was so bittersweet.
And if anyone knows about country, if you don't know a song, then you don't know country.
Yes.
But like this, it's I guess, could you talk about like deciding to include this on the record? But like, what did you want to do in terms of your rendition of the song?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to do a cover, an unexpected cover. I love an unexpected cover. So there was this song, I don't know, it's kind of a smaller show, but it's called Physical on Apple TV. And there I was watching that show, and there was a cover in this really emotional moment on the show. It was More Than a Feeling. And it's like, that's like an 80s song. Like, More Than a Feeling. Who sings it? Is it like Chicago, or it's one of those 80s bands? And it was a cover done beautifully acoustic, and I wish I remembered the artist, but it was so gorgeous. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to have a song that people hear it and they realize it's that other song, and it's so different, but it's so unexpected and surprising. And I didn't know what the song would be, but I knew I wanted to. And then it just came to me one night, and I recorded it and it also just so happened. Sometimes I have an idea for a song and then I'm like, what are the chords? And I'm like, oh, I don't think I can do this. Or like, it's just like a little too complicated, or like it doesn't work with my voice, right? Like I have a few songs that I've always wanted to cover and I just like can't get there. But this song, the chords are really simple. The vocal, like where it sits in my voice worked, and I did the demo in like 2 takes, and it ended. Most of like what you hear is like me just doing it in one night here in my home studio. So yeah, and that's the other thing with it's so fun to have the ability to create my own music in my home studio, because I can have these ideas and then quickly have land the plane. I can quickly be like, all right, I'm going to record it and like bring it to Matt in the studio, and he actually didn't know the song. So he hadn't heard it, and so he heard my rendition. We produced the whole thing, and then after, he went back and listened to the Dina Carter version, and he could not believe his mind was blown, because it's like, it is 90s country. If you're like, what is 90s country? It is that song. It is the twang. It is the iconic sounds of 90s country. And so, but that was exactly what I wanted. His moment of like, are you kidding me? I have never heard the song, and they could not be further. But so yeah, I'm happy that I was able to kind of do that.
And was there any thought of, trying to do your own kind of straight 90s country cover of it? Or did you kind of just want to make it your own, but also kind of make it sonically on the album as well?
No, I never really have desires to do like straight covers. I always like to take things and make them my own. Even like whenever I'm like at a place where there's karaoke, people are like, you should do karaoke. And I'm like, no, that's not my deal. Like, because then I feel like I'm just being compared. And so I would rather take something and then reimagine it. That's the creative in me.
And so now I want to talk about, when I listen to records, I also, if I listen to them a lot and I actually understand what the songs are about, like I get into like, okay, like how these fit together. And so, in terms of like when you're putting these songs in order of how they'll appear on the record, there's Honeymoon goes into Celebrity, Fertile Ground goes into Reliable Man, which is a kind of battle between like, the Fertile Ground is it's this battle of like your responsibilities, but also what you want to do and balancing that. And then Reliable Mind is, well, it's a happy life. And then Trailblazing and also Even Love, where that's also like trying to claim this new, this creative path you're on, but also knowing that like, everything takes work too. So could you kind of talk about like what thoughts when you guys were actually putting, like, how are you going to like sequence the songs?
Yeah, the sequencing is a fun thing to think about, and that's why I really like full albums. And it's kind of sad that full albums aren't the norm anymore, because there is so much that you can interpret from the actual sequence of songs. And so a few thoughts. I knew Honeymoon would be first, partly because I think it's just the right entry point, not just because of the message, but because of the sound. It's like an accessible sound. because that's what you think about too, is like, okay, if somebody's going to come and listen to my record, like what's the first thing that I want them to hear that isn't going to be too aggressive, it's not going to turn them off. It's a tall order, and I felt like Honeymoon was like the right set point for like, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get just like a fun, breezy, easy, but also interesting pop record. And then I knew the last song, like the first time Matt heard Even Love, he's like, this sounds like an album closer. And I felt like that was good confirmation. So I knew the bookends. And then you sort of think about the story you want to tell throughout. I didn't want to have too many songs concentrated together that were like too down tempo, but I also wanted to tell a story. So like Honeymoon into Celebrity. So like those are two kind of light songs. But then, yeah, I just kind of toggle between keeping it light, but then adding a little bit more of depth to the story, and then popping it up and then adding a little bit more depth. And then, but yeah, I think everything was really deliberate. And like, even like Fertile Ground is sort of about my fertility journey. It took time for us to get pregnant. It was challenging and it was difficult. And so it's like you have the honeymoon, you're living your life, and you're having a good time. Literally, these are like, you're feeling like a celebrity, but then it's like fertile ground. You're like, oh, wait, we're having a hiccup in the journey. So each of the songs, I think, are representative of like, okay, what happens after the honeymoon? Or like, somewhere in there you feel like you're losing your voice, but then you find it again. And I'm hoping people will listen to it in its entirety and go on that journey. But also I hope that people have their songs that they fall in love with and listen to on repeat. I'm a big, like, if I like a song, I'll repeat that for like 4 hours. If I'm on like a road trip, I don't know if that makes me a serial killer, but I will listen to a song for 4 hours straight.
Well, I guess now all you gotta do is define for you what a serial killer is and go from there.
Yeah.
So like what? Because yeah, like I mean, my favorite records are the ones that like every time I listen to them, I hear something new. Like for example, I about 10 years ago I got into Bruce Springsteen, and he has a record called Wrecking Ball. It's just like I just kind of like it's just you just hear something new, and that's like what this is. It's kind of like every time I listen to it, it's kind of like I see something new. It's like, oh, that or that, and like I love that. It's like that keeps me coming back. What when this is soon gonna be out in the world? Like, what do you want your fans to take away from the record?
Wow, that's such a lovely question that I even get the opportunity to have people take something away from this. I think at the beginning, I just wanted to be known more. I wanted to have my truth out in the world. But now, as I've lived with the record and the message of the record is more clear to me, I think I would like people to go away with this feeling of like the preciousness of life in the hard moments and in the good moments, and also an acknowledgement that like life can be mundane, life can be slow, life can be boring, but it doesn't stay that way. And if you just hold on in those moments, there's just so much surprise and joy and like unexpected moments beyond that. Because I was a person who was super restless and didn't know if I was a person who would want to get married and have kids and like have that normalcy, because I was like, wait, isn't that just like boring? And you just, it's all grocery store and garbage bags and boring. But I'm so delighted by the richness of life beyond the honeymoon. So I think it's just an acknowledgement and acceptance, and it's okay. Like it's okay to embrace that part of life. And if you just hang on, like there's like lots of good, and there's still there are many good times ahead.
Are there any songs on the record, and maybe not enough time has passed yet for you yet, but are there any songs where that they mean something more to you or different or affect you in a different way than either when you initially wrote it or recorded it?
I mean, I think Fertile Ground was so intense at the time. of writing it. Because it's not entirely about a fertility journey. It's really about me feeling like I'm just wasted potential. And so that's another meaning of fertile ground, is like, I've always heard she's fertile ground because I was this, straight A student, really became this darling in my hometown of like the musician, and she's going to go on to do big things. And that, it's like that hero sort of thing that I carried around with me made me feel so like this unsung song and this wasted potential. And so when I wrote it, I just was like, wait, what happens if I just like give all that up and just be like, I'm just here and I'm okay and I'm me, and this is okay. It's okay for me to be where I'm at. This is enough. I am enough. And that was really intense at the time. And I felt like I had to have that release in writing the song of like, just sort of shrugging off people's expectations. But it doesn't feel that way anymore to me. It doesn't feel as intense to me, probably because the act of recording this album helps me feel like I'm not wasted potential anymore. And I get better with people's expectations every year. And every moment as I get older. That's the gift of getting older, is like the weight of people's expectations weigh on you less. But yeah, fertile ground. And I'm kind of sad that it doesn't have that intensity, because like when I write a song and it has such intensity, it's like becomes my religion for like 2 weeks, where I'm like, this song is everything. I can't wait to play it. I love it. I'm so proud of it, and I'm still proud of it, but it doesn't hold that same feeling for me anymore. And now it's like, it's living in a different realm. But yeah, for sure. Like thinking about how it felt writing it and then thinking about it now is very different experiences. Not bad or good. They're just very different.
Well, this has been a very fun talk here. Very much enjoyed it. We do gotta wrap here in a little bit. I mean, well, very soon actually. Where can people find you on social media?
My name, so Brynne Andre, so at Brynne Andre on Instagram, and that's BRYNNANDRE. If you go to brynneandre.com, you can check out, information on the release show, information on the release. Actually, I think you can I have it set up where if you want an advance listen of the record, I give you access to that. Otherwise, you have to wait till August 18th. And I'm on Facebook, Brynne Andre. So yeah, and at Bryant Lake Bowl, depending on when this comes out, I will be there on July 29th, but I also have shows coming up. So yeah, check out Brynne Andre on Instagram and brynneandre.com.
Well, this was, again, a lot of fun. Thank you for taking the time, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. It was so awesome to chat.
Can I tell you a secret? Coming close, real close. I don't think that you should love me, 'cause you be loving a ghost. Long ago, someone broke me apart, and I carry on with a canyon heart.
And that is it for this episode. I want to send a big thank you to Brynne Andre for her time. Her new album, Honeymoon, is out everywhere now. I also want to thank our producer, Paul Thorson, and editor-in-chief, Andrew Perizzo. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at PlaylistTC, as well as Facebook and Instagram. Just type in Melodic Noise Media and you should find us. You can also join our Patreon and help us keep this ship afloat. We should be adding some new content soon. You can find me mainly on Instagram at AndySmileyJ. Thank you for listening, and until next time, I'm Andy Ellis. Remember to stay safe and support local music. Take care, everyone.